Thank you, Sanjay and Pratima. It's an honor for me to be invited by Kathmandu University School of Education to be the keynote speech, to give a keynote speech. I don't know whether I deserve that or not. Because there is a critical mass of knowledge, cognitive knowledge, in this audience. So it's a pleasure for me to share some of my understanding of what is this technical vocational education and training. Just to give a brief background, I started my career as an intern in Nepal, working at the Technical Training Institute, which was established by the Germans. In the 60s, I started my career as an intern in 1971. It's a long year, 52, 53 years back. At that time in the 60s, the Germans established 3 institutions in our part of the world. First, it was Technical Training Institute in Kathmandu at Thapathali, known as Thapathali campus, inaugurated by the king, the former king, Mahendra, and the German President, Henry Lucke. I remember for the first jet plane, a jumbo jet landed at our airport. This was around mid-60s, late 60s. There was another school established at Bangkok, King Mangkut, named after the king. And a third institution was established in Sri Lanka, that was called Ceylon German Technical Institute. Now, after 51 years, 52 years, what happened? I don't have time to discuss what happened. But yes, if you want to trace the history of Tibet in Nepal, you can go back 200 years back, during the Malla period, and our foreign guests who haven't been to Kathmandu, they have just seen Dhulikhel, you'll enjoy the marvels of temples and stupas built by Nepalese artisans. So we have a long history, but we're here in the 21st century. There's a lot to be learned. So then my career was in the Institute of Engineering for the last 48 years. Started with intern at the campus, and then I'm involved with Tibet to some extent. So I have about 20, 25, 30 slides, which I don't think I would look at it, because that's for you to consume. The organizer said that I've got about 45 minutes. I don't know whether it's too long or too short for a professor. For me, it might be too short. But I requested the organizer that I'll speak for about 30 minutes, and then I'll leave that to challenge me, my concepts, my observations. But the organizer was a little bit hesitant. Let's see how it goes on. But I don't want this to be a monologue from a professor to the learned students. I want it to be a dialogue. So my presentation is a bit philosophical. We heard the first one from Stefan. I've learned a lot from his presentation, his practical presentation, his operational presentation. But at the same time, I believe that we also have to look at the philosophical foundation, the philosophical underpinning in this very complex education system. It is complex. It's not that easy like the higher education institution, because the variables are complex. The variables are heterogeneous. So I'll start with this concept of 3 C's, which I thought is not mine, particularly. You can trace back to that concept 2005 years back, starting with Lord Buddha. So the 3C is basically, we will be talking about content, which is the knowledge part. That has to be strong. We can change, I think, can I have mine? So it's so difficult for me to look at this and then, can someone help me out? No, it's all right. I think it's better from here or here, I don't know. Can someone change, because it's difficult for me to look at it and look at my audience. So one is content, which is knowledge, skills, competency, whatever you call it. That's one C. That has to be solid. The second C is the context. Now that's difficult. Because yesterday I was attending different rooms, looking at the discussions. There were different contexts. Context within the country. Context within the family. That's situational. Here we have the Germans. They were in this conference I met yesterday in the evening from Romania, South Africa, Namibia. They were my students because I teach the master's course in Tibet for the last 1 year. So I become a student when I teach them. So the context is difficult. That's very difficult. And the third one, again, heterogeneous, is the community of learners. We are all community of learners. You're here because you've got an interest in this field of Tibet, which is, in our part of the world, a very, very neglected field. Due to many reasons, which cannot be explained or which cannot be understood by our foreign friends. You have to stay here for years, not in Kathmandu, to understand the context and the community of learners. So that is what I'm going to start with. Then I'm going to talk about the world of change. When I was a student, 60 years back, it's not just we observe technological change, and I'll show you some photographs how the world has changed. But more than that, let's go back to philosophy again. Let's go back when you were students. It doesn't matter whether you're a student in Switzerland, 60, 70 years back. At that time, I don't think you were born. But Germany, it doesn't matter. So when we were students and how it is evolving, this whole landscape of teaching and learning, whether in higher education or whether in Tibet. The first element that you see way back, there are four phases or four elements. The first is teaching. The teacher was the person. Like say in Sanskrit we have Gurudeva Bhava. That is, teachers are treated like God. They're not treated like that now. So Gurudeva Bhava, and you cannot go against God. Look at Christianity. Look at during the time of Socrates, 2500 war. 2500 war. They are secret. You cannot. What they say is the truth. So that was teaching. In monologue, the teacher was the center. But then, evolving, let's say, in Nepal, recent maybe 20 years, it shifted from teachers to students, the learner. So from dialogue, monologue, it became a dialogue. So, teaching shifted to another inch is learning. Okay? And in our case, in Tibet, we are doing. It's not just learning. Whereas in the higher education, if I do a doctorate, you go to a drill, doesn't matter. That's it. It doesn't say you what you can do. What you know and what you can do is completely different. What we are interested in, what you can do. You got a doctorate from Harvard. For me, it doesn't mean anything. I have a doctorate from Canada. It doesn't mean anything. What is meaningful is what you can do. I go to Nepal, I ask, what do you do? He or she would say, I'm a general manager. That's a position. I'm not interested in a position. But my interest is, what do you do as general manager? Do you make some product? No. Do you develop a model? No. Then what do you do? That is important. So learning, teaching, shifted to learning, and the learner was the focus point. The third phase, what would be the third phase? Then anyone can guess. Ending with ing. Any guess? Directly related to education and training, whether it's TVET or whether it's higher education, whether it's such a higher education. The third phase. We talked a lot about that in our conference. The third one is earning. You have to earn. You have to be employed. Decent job. What do you mean by decent job? That's the theme. So the third phase is earning. We don't produce graduate for unemployment. We may produce PhD for unemployment because they might be a thinker. We assume that they might come up with concept models that may be used by another philosopher. So the third was earning. Very important for our part of the world. There's a fourth one. Now that's difficult for you to say. Any guess? Any guess? ING, it ends at the ING. You can add up, you can have another phase, fifth phase. Any guess?
Innovating.
Pardon?
Innovating.
It's more abstract. Let me give you a hint.
Adapting.
There was someone who said living. Is it? Who is the one who said living? Raise your hand. Okay, what was the adopting? Okay, in my opinion, again, I may be wrong. In my opinion, the fourth phase is living. Now, it's a very abstract concept. The way you live in Switzerland or the way you live in Germany and the way we live is different. Now, I'm no one to say which is correct, which is right. But the fundamental hypothesis is, the fundamental, which is not taught in our schools, whether it's in Germany, Switzerland, America, you name it, is, the foundation of that living is, you cannot, I emphasize you cannot, be a better doctor or a better diplomat or a better engineer, a lawyer, unless and until you are a good person. That's the fundamental. And where do you learn that? Do you teach that, Ursula, in your university? No.
We teach Rousseau.
Oh, yeah, we have a word, nice word. But the fundamental is how to be a humble, caring human being. That's living. Okay. So with that foundation, I would talk about as the world changed. Now this one I have already discussed. I'll show you some photographs and you will see, I don't know whether you have heard about Peter. He has come up with 6 Ds. You'll see the photograph. Yes, now you see all this. Yes, the world has changed. There's no doubt about it. I was talking with a gentleman from Zurich. His father-in-law. Can I acknowledge my friend from Zurich? Yeah. Can you get up? Can you start? Can you? So I was talking with him during dinner. Very interesting, because a lot of learning takes place in that surrounding, not in this formalized, you've got a keynote speaker and you sit there and listen to my lecture. That's boring. I was talking with him, and his father-in-law was working in UNICEF 60 years back. Am I correct? With water and sanitation. 55, 60 years back. And they visited again after 50 years to that same village where his father-in-law was instrumental in coming up with the water supply. Because people have to walk still now 2 hours together to fetch a pitcher of water. So I was asking him, what sort of development did you see? We're talking about road, we're talking about mobile. So yes, it is changing, but then has that change reached to the bottom of the pyramid, people who are there? In my case, my observation, going around Nepal, changes, yes, it has happened. Is it natural? Or is it there is a driver? I have my doubt. Changing the life of the grassroots villager down there. Not just the big people. So it was a very interesting discussion. So we see, I just wanted to look at this hyperloop, this one. Now this hyperloop, I don't know how many have heard about this hyperloop concept. Well, in my guess, it'll happen maybe after 10 years. There is an experimental hyperloop coming from Calgary to Edmonton. I did my doctorate from Edmonton, University of Alberta. So I'm close to that country to some extent. So this hyperloop concept is, they take a distance of around 200 kilometers, around 200, 210 kilometers. And then their aim is to travel a distance of about 200 kilometers in less than 35 minutes, 40 minutes. It'll be wonderful if you can travel. Normally it'll take around 3 hours. Like say Calgary to Edmonton would take around 2 hours, 45 minutes. Now, Tesla is coming up with an experimental hyperloop. They have that's about 298 kilometers from Calgary to Edmonton. They have completed a track of around 30 to 35 kilometers. So the average speed of that hyperloop is around average. The highest would be down 2 Mach, highest. Average, we will be talking about, let's say, 300 kilometers in 30 minutes, so you can guess. So about 100, 115 kilometers per hour. So that would be the case, it's with cities, like from New York to Washington, so about 300 kilometer stuff, less than 100. So that would be the game changer for us. And what is the implication to Tibet? Huge implication. So then you have all these Uber, Facebook, Instagram, they were not there 25 years ago. And see, there is a growing television network company laying no cable. What, can you conceive that 50 years back? No. When we were studying in engineering. No. Next, please. So all these stuff are there. So yes, the world of change now it is. We talk about IA now, machine learning. And yesterday I was looking at some paper in India. They have a master's course in AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning. GPT chat. And some futurists have said that AI is a revolution like internet that'll change our lives. The European Union is working very, very hard to come up with their AI laws. America is doing it. Okay. So it is. Next, please. So you can see this exponential growth in technology. Next, please. And have a look when you talk about internal combustion engine and the electrical vehicle, you see how many moving parts they have. Now, this is the innovation cycle that I think is interesting. They say we are in Industrial Revolution 4, and Japan is thinking of Industrial Revolution 5. These are buzzwords that might be new to you, but then there's one Industrial Revolution 4, there's another one, Society Revolution 5, where we are thinking about the impact of this revolution starting from the steam engine. So what is, and in my opinion, it is both positive and negative. In Nepal, and I was talking with the gentleman from Zurich, in all the villages in Karnali, everyone had a mobile. They might not have a smartphone, but they were having mobile. And that's a change, the communication. So that is what you will see. And the reason why I'm saying that is the world of change to such an extent that as teacher, if we don't change, there is no future of this sector. The problems are not with the students. They are there to learn. They come there to learn. A poor villager coming to Kathmandu to learn, they're sincere about learning. But it's the teacher who are not learning. Be that be in a university within Kathmandu, spend my time, university, Tribhuvan University Institute of Engineering. Sorry to say that, they are not learning. So the challenge is with us, not with the student. So if you look at the 6 Ds, can it go up? That's one, yeah. So some of the words you would be familiar: digitization, disruption. These are all connected. You see the disruption. The 3-1 might be a little bit confusing. Demonetization, okay? Democratization, you would know. Dematerialization. Now, demonetization is now, India is a good example. They use QR code. Even the shopkeeper selling vegetable uses QR code. That is demonetization. You don't carry money. And there was some participant from Namibia, they would say, I don't have any money. Okay? So that is changing. That is changing in a big way in our part of the world. Even in Nepal, QR code is very, very, whereas if you go to Europe, QR code may not be that popular compared to, in terms of population, per capita population, okay? Because you can't compare India and a small country in Europe. So per capita penetration of QR code in the last 2 years, India would come in the top 3 per capita penetration. So that is demonetization. We don't carry money in our pocket. And there is a whole forward linkage and the backward linkage with that concept of demonetization. Now, democratization, that's happening everywhere. Good or bad, I don't know. It's happening in our country, but it's happening in the workforce. I would like to see that happening in the classroom. It doesn't mean that the students should go on, they should revolt. But at least it should be a dialogue. They should be valued, they should be respected. So that democratization should come in our classroom environment. So next please. So these are all these charts you will see. Now, I'll talk about, basically I look at it again philosophically, again from a theoretical domain. 3 balancing acts that you have to do for Tibet. One is demand and supply. In our country, we are supply driven. More or less 90%. Fortunately or unfortunately, in the Tibet sector, we have been able to fulfill 50% in the CTVT affiliated institution. We have been able to fulfill 50% of our enrollment capacity. 50%, just 50%. There are different regions. Attraction could be another one. They were not interested now to study for 3 years in a diploma course. So that part, how do you, we are supply driven, how do you bring in the demand side? In the demand side, it's there. IT sector is growing. You've got some industries that are growing. There are services sector that are growing. And the whole aim of this project, I think, is how do you make these industries, these businesses, SMEs, a part of our journey. So my question is not just demand driven, but demand led. And that is not happening. Forget about demand driven. The courses are made by academicians sitting in an office, doesn't have a clue of what the market is. So it's not just demand driven, it is demand led. That should be our slogan. The second one deals with, now this is, second one, there is a matrix that I developed where you have supply and demand, and there are 4 quadrants. Yeah, this one. So definitely you would like to be in number 1. Well, now we are in number 3. Okay. So, and when you are in the low skill track, you'll go down. You'll go down. The second balancing act that you have to do is quality and quantity. Next one, please. Quality and quantity. Yes, the emphasis now is on quantity. That's a government, and that could be, I can understand the reason is you would like to expand in excess, but there is a limit to that. Unless you can deliver quality assured, there's no way. The students will not come. So you are preparing your graduates to be unemployed and to be political leaders. When you have an empty mind, they say you join politics and they govern us. So are you producing unemployed youth to be our politician, to be our leader? Or are we trying to produce quality assured TVET graduate who could steer this country? The choice is yours. The choice is ours. Okay? So the third balancing act that you have to do is, can I go ahead please? Just go ahead. The third balancing act is the balancing act between change and continuity. And we've seen the world of change. There's no point in maintaining the status quo. And that is what we as academicians are trained. As administrators, we are trained to maintain status quo. Be the Vice Chancellor of Kathmandu University, the Dean, we are comfortable with that status quo because we've been doing that. And if you want to introduce a very small change, we might think that there will be a student riot. They will lock our campus gate for 10 days and no one is going to do anything. Imagine Trivandrum University, 365 days, 200 days, the campus is locked. And our political leaders, they come and say that we have one of the finest institutions. Rubbish and bullshit. And how long do you want to listen to these nonsense narratives? How long? So the question is, how do we adopt that change? It is painful because we are trying to do it for the first time. So the dean is here. I'm teaching the course and I've been telling him that introduce some incremental change. He might have his own issues, balancing act between the student and the teacher and the staff. So, yes, we have to introduce change in the system. Otherwise, you'll just go down, you're just wasting money. Be that with the donors, or be that with the government, be that with the local people. Next, please. So, I have around, about 10 minutes? 10 minutes? Can I have some? Okay, so let's, I started with the philosophical sort of thing about teaching, learning, living and earning. Now I would like to conclude now with some parable. There's one, the boiling frog syndrome. I don't know how many have heard that, boiling frog syndrome. Anyone? None? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I don't know, I can talk for about 1 hour on this boiling frog syndrome. And just to be brief, the boiling frog syndrome is a very interesting parable. Now, if you put a frog in a room temperature water, and if you burn it slowly, maybe 10 degree or 1 degree per minute or in 10 minutes, the frog will enjoy the sauna, the cold water being warm. And after some time, depending on the metabolism of that frog, eventually the frog would die. Eventually. On the other side, there's a boiling water. You put a frog in that boiling water. The reaction, instant reaction for her or for him is to jump out. Now the question to you is, my sort of belief, my assumptions, is that we are in that boiling frog syndrome in the Tibet ecosystem where we are enjoying the benefit of the donors slowly. We are enjoying their perks to a certain extent. I'm not saying that it will eventually kill us. No. It will be disgraceful for the donors. But then the question, are we coming at the tipping point? Give you an example, just one example. In the next 3-4 years, as grant, I'm not talking about the loan, in this sector around $100 million US. $100 million US. In some countries, they need that in their own country, looking after their people. Forget about looking after Nepal. Donor. Multilateral. Bank is here. So this is a question that we all have to ask. Even the donor, not just the Nepalese. To ask, are we in the tipping zone? Are we a boiling frog enjoying that warm water? So that's a question that I put. And that might be the case in other developing countries. So that is one question. The second one is the 2 P's. That will be my end, and I think I still give about 10 minutes to the audience. The 2 P is, I believe, and I strongly believe, that unless and until you have pride and passion in this sector, you cannot, I again emphasize, you cannot move forward. So let us all pledge today that we believe in Tibet. We would like to be a leader in this field, but then have pride and passion Just don't think as a teacher or as a student you are catering for the lowest class. Because there is a class division in our part of the world which may not be there, where 70% odd in Germany. In Germany they say about 75-30 have some sort of vocational training, whether it's school or higher education. In Korea they say it's about 90%, more than 90% from school, okay? In the formal system. Germany, Switzerland, about 75, something like that. So let's have pride and passion, both as a teacher and a student in this journey, and then dream together for a better future, better Nepal, because I believe that unless and until you dream together, not dream alone, you cannot think of a fair, just, humble society in any country. With that, once again, I would like to express my gratitude to all the organizers for this opportunity to share some of my narratives that I have learned, not just in Nepal. I'm a fortunate Nepali. And if this opportunity was given to any villager, they would have been better than me. I worked in Cambodia for many years, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Manila. But I went there and you might ask, this guy said he's working in the Institute of Engineering for 45 years, 48 years. How come he's worked in Cambodia for 3-4 years? I used to go there, I used to tell my consulting firm in Australia or France that I'm available during this time. So I went there during my holidays. I went there during the examination time. So I had the opportunity to work in the Tibet sector. In Cambodia for about 6-7 years, in Sri Lanka, in Vietnam, and in Manila. So this is based on my narratives, on my living experience, working with the Khmer, working with the farmers. So this is just my observation. I cannot validate this with research, like you all say. But this is my human intuition and narratives. Thank you very much. I think no, I don't think we have a session for, but then please challenge me or please add or come up with some observation that I will note down and improve my future. Yes, sir. Stephen, here I see. Oh my God, you would have an accident.
Thank you for your presentation. Would you elaborate what the demand side means in the contemporary era? Because it's often seen, and your last slide indicated, that it's largely directed towards employers' needs. But the demand side, I think, is far greater than that. So, for instance, in Australia, when we had the National Training Reform Agenda, the government boasted that it had done 1,300 consultations. But how many with students? And that came at the behest of the student union. So as the young people, their parents, their caregivers are increasingly investing in TVET education, but also as community needs is very different. Is it time, and I'd like your response to this, to elaborate the concept of what constitutes the demand side for vocational education? Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Ursula? I think I'll try to answer, or I'll try to give my view combined.
Thank you very much, Pramod sir, for that great presentation. I particularly like your description of the fast change driven by digital transformation, the exponential growth of new technology, which definitely leads to a change first in the labor market. And my hypothesis is that exactly due to this fast drive, TVET will be in the center of the 21st century, because schools, university, colleges have no time to change their curriculum on time. And that's why my question is a little bit linked to Stephen's question. If we don't embrace the industry sector as a learning location, we definitely will produce old-fashioned skills. This is my first question for you. And then the second question related to this industry is, what type of skills do you think matters the most in the future? Or in other words, are hard skills still the priority, or are there transferable skills which may matter more? These are my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ursula. Oh yeah, we got now the donors. You got ADB Rudy? Yes, please. I'm excited.
Thank you. I'm not asking a donor question. You've made it clear what you feel the responsibility is. Since you started in philosophy, I'm a little bit nervous that in a lot of the research and the stories that I heard here, there's a sense of technological determinism, that somebody else is doing all this change, somebody else is creating all this technology. It's not, you know, when we talk about philosophy of technology, we have the voluntarism, technological determinism. The constructivism, the idea that we are part of creating and making those moral choices when we teach our students, when we make it. I think that's very, it was a little bit there when Stephen talked about innovation as part of TVET. It's not something that happens out there. It's what we do jointly in those stakeholders. And are we actually teaching our students and also being enough aware of that there is choices there? I mean, people used to say, how come we can send people to the moon, but we don't have a self-cleaning house? And then we go back to yesterday's presentation where we say, how come there's no women in TVET? And who do the cleaning? So what power games are there? So I'm curious to have your thinking on what you saw on how we can get this idea that we're not responding but creating. Thank you.
Okay, I think if this goes on, we have to take another half an hour to give my viewpoint.
Namaste everyone.
I think this would be the last one, and after that, I would be brief in my response.
Okay. Namaste everyone. I'm Amrita Sarma, researcher in employability and skills sector. Actually, my questions are already asked by Ursula and Rene, but because I wanted to link the impact of digitization and how we as a Nepali TVET sector become producer of it rather than consumer. I want to ask second question. I conducted one study assessing the employability gap in engineering sector. I wrote a paper and I submitted in one of the renowned journal in Nepal, and I was answered that engineering doesn't belong to TVET. So how do you address this mindset? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope the online would give me, from the permission of the Dean, about 5-6 minutes to respond. My sort of understanding. And these are very insightful questions. So I'll take the last one first. Regarding engineering is not TVET, that would exemplify his or her height of ignorance. It is in every way part and parcel of TVET. Full stop. Okay? It is a part and parcel. It's not just modern engineering we're talking about. Like yesterday, when the Vice Chancellor of KU was talking about traditional craft, and I talked in the morning, our buildings, they were built, they didn't have any thermalite, nothing, they didn't have any cement, they didn't have any rod iron. Look at the building in Bhaktapur, in Patan, in Kathmandu. Okay? So don't have that idea that engineering is not TVET, because we in our society, we have a trend to come up with hierarchy, PhD at the top. So, and we believe that engineering is the doctor and engineer. So That is completely, there's no evidence. Now, coming to this issue, Rudy, I don't know where did he go. I don't believe in technological deterministic sort of mindset. I like to construct. Okay? I like to construct new hypotheses. I like an evolving hypothesis. I like to challenge established hypotheses. So then innovation, choice, in a country like ours, very, very limited choice. And that would also respond to what Stephen said. That yes, when I say market-driven, and I use the word market-led, demand, market. Now, I think if I understood correctly, his sort of question was, how do you identify who are the market? Who are the demand sector player? We always say industry. That's the first thing. And we have to come up with skill sector council, blah, blah, blah. What about student sector council? Have you talked about that? No. If you say student sector council, they'll say, nonsense. You're going mad. So we are led and driven by one important sector. I'm not saying it's not important. I can give you a case study of South Korea. The training that they do for their employee is much more bigger than training institutions. Last one, Ursula. Okay, here I've got a notice that my time is over, but then we can discuss this later on. But yes, old-fashioned skill, yes, now soft skills are emerging. So it's a combination of hard skill and soft skill and balancing. Thank you very much again. Thank you very much.